It's a weekend edition of Inside Cowboys Training Camp, driven by Ford here from Oxnard, California. David Helman, Kyle Youmans from DallasCowboys.com as the Cowboys continue a busy week of practices, a span of 5 practices in 6 days. They had their regeneration day on Friday, but hey, we're fully into training camp at this point.
Yeah, 2 practices over the weekend. I mean, there's only 3 left before the Hall of Fame game, which is wild to think about. Saturday, Sunday, go again Tuesday, and then it's off to Ohio.
We are within a week of playing actual football, and even though it may not count in terms of the regular season, it certainly counts for the reps of some of these young guys. We probably won't see one of our favorite talking topics, and that's CeeDee Lamb during the Hall of Fame game, but we have seen plenty of him throughout Oxnard. What have you seen from CeeDee Lamb? Because Kellen Moore says that he's getting some opportunities outside.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take the words right out of Dak Prescott's mouth. He said he looks like another guy that wore 88 recently. I mean, Dez Bryant dominated training camp for nearly a decade here, and CeeDee Lamb is picking up right where he left off. I mean, I know that sounds like an exaggeration, but it's really not. I mean, the guy goes out there, he's playing outside, so he's making the same type of, back shoulder catches and going up for the ball. It looks Dez-like. I mean, the body type's not quite the same, but the way that he controls the practice certainly is. It's fun to watch.
It definitely seems like he has at least one play per practice. He's due for one play to just drop the jaws, I think, of everybody that is watching. But how much is he taking advantage of some of those reps along the way? Because he played a lot in the slot last year. There's no Amari Cooper. Michael Gallup has been limited. He's really been the top wide receiver out there.
Yeah, it's really fun. It seems like every year at this time, everybody talks about playing everywhere. Like, oh, he's going to play all over. And maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. But you're seeing that with CD, I think. I mean, he's playing X receiver. He was almost exclusively in the slot last year. We know Amari can do everything. It's fun to think that those guys could be interchangeable this year. And the amount that we're seeing CD play on the outside gives me confidence that it'll translate to the season.
Those top 3 receiver spots pretty much locked in, and now there's some questions underneath that. Is it Noah Brown, Cedric Wilson, and then maybe one other spot that's up for grabs at the moment?
That is going to be the question at wide receiver. Because, I mean, we know the top 3. That's boring. We got that figured out. But, Cedric Wilson, Noah Brown, they're clearly a step ahead of all these young guys. Obviously, most of those guys are rookies. Noah Brown's been in the league for 5 years at this point, Cedric as well. The question is, those guys make a lot of money. And the front office has made no bones about the fact that they'd love to shed some salary and get cheaper. So whether it's an undrafted rookie free agent, Brandon Smith is a guy that a lot of people talk about. Osiris Mitchell's made some plays. Malik Turner, I can't believe I listed him 3rd. He probably should have been 1st. Then obviously you have a draft pick in Simi Fehoko. All those guys are promising. They're also cheaper. So that's the question for me is, can any of those guys prove that they can do it just as well as Noah or Cedric? And if they can, it might give them an edge because of salary.
Yeah, we're about halfway through our time in Oxnard, and this back half is going to be really fun to see how some of those position battles shake out and how those roster spots are allocated. When we come back, what is Dan Quinn continuing to change on the defensive side of the football? We'll hear from the Cowboys' new defensive coordinator when we return on Inside Cowboys Training Camp, driven by Ford.
Inside Cowboys Training Camp, presented by Ford, is brought to you by AT&T. More for your thing, that's our thing. Sleep Number. The Sleep Number 360 smart bed helps everyone from parents to pros improve their performance through quality sleep, only at a Sleep Number store. And by Ford, built for Texas, built for you. This segment is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors, official sporting goods retailer of the Dallas Cowboys.
We're rolling along here on this edition of Inside Cowboys Training Camp, presented by Ford here from Oxnard, California. And we got a chance to hear from defensive coordinator Dan Quinn yesterday, and he said it in his first press conference. He said it again yesterday, but playing matchup defense, really showing the versatility of some of the players and the depth that you have on that side of the football is an emphasis that he has for his team moving forward.
That might be, if I'm looking for things to be excited about from this defense, that's probably it. I think this is as diverse a group of defenders as I've ever seen. They spent their whole draft class on these big, long, tall guys. They brought in guys like Jaron Kearse, just massive, long, rangy players. They drafted Micah Parsons, who can, he can do a little bit of everything. He can rush the passer, he can drop in coverage. They have so much versatility. They got smaller twitchier corners like a Trayvon Diggs who doesn't really match those longer guys' skill sets. Like, they can match up and do all kinds of things. Haven't even mentioned the defensive line. Again, you got these big, burly run stuffers like Brent Urban. You got some rangier guys who can get after the passer a little bit. It's exciting to think that they can change what they want to do based on what the opposition's throwing at them.
Cowboys are going to run a sort of hybrid defense underneath Dan Quinn, but how important is the versatility for some of those individuals on that side of the football? We'll hear from Dan himself, presented by Sleep Number.
The good news is a number of these players have the critical factors that you're looking for, like whether it's size to guard somebody, the middle field play of a guy like Kays who can really run. So it's good to have versatility, when you're building a defense, because not every team that you play is in a similar way, in terms of their scheme and how they have players, and these big tight ends that we're seeing compared to some teams that just regularly play in 3 and 4 receivers. I think the name of the game, especially at the safety spot, is versatility. You want some that can go down and guard receivers, and then you need some other guys that can really break out of the middle of the field, and then some other guys that can really guard guys. If you have them all in one, man, you hit it pretty big. But more often than not, it's more than one job.
So Dan Quinn obviously intrigued by some of the players, like you mentioned, on that side of the football. Keona Neal was another name that he had mentioned throughout his press conference yesterday. Of course, he coached him in Atlanta. But what have you seen in his switch from safety to linebacker here with the Cowboys?
That was one of my favorite parts of Dan's press conference yesterday. Is he was talking about how he kind of tricked Keanu into playing linebacker while he was in Atlanta, which, if you follow the Falcons or watched Keanu when he signed with the Cowboys, he played a lot of box safety. He had a lot of the same responsibilities. Not really a cover guy down in the box. So I think it's been smooth for him, because I think that's kind of what he was already doing. And yeah, I mean, he looks natural at it, to be honest with you. He looks like he's a little bit bigger, because it is a different position, so he's going to be down going against the run game a little bit more than he was probably used to. But it seems really smooth because the responsibilities are very similar to what he was already doing.
He's another one of those really interesting acquisitions that the Cowboys made this past offseason that could give their defense a little added element. When we come back, we've got plenty more to talk about here from Oxnard when more Inside Cowboys Training Camp returns.
This segment was brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors, official sporting goods retailer of the Dallas Cowboys.
It's the final segment of Inside Cowboys Training Camp presented by Ford. David Helman, Kyle Youmans with you. And one of the intriguing parts of this offseason, we've talked about the acquisitions, but Kelvin Joseph was one of those names, one of those small, twitchy corners that the Cowboys picked up in the second round of the NFL draft. And Stephen Jones said that Kelvin Joseph caught his eye. What have you seen from Kelvin so far, despite limited action recently?
Yeah, that's the funny thing is, we go out to practice every day. We can offer our insight to the best of our abilities, but when people that are in the meetings and talking to the coaching staff and really on the inside of the front office tell you something, you should listen. Kelvin hasn't been bad by any stretch, but I wouldn't say he's jumped out to me as a guy that's making all these crazy splash plays. So knowing that, to hear Stephen Jones still say that, it puts my radar up, because if the front office is impressed, that's what matters to me. So it just makes me want to watch him even closer to see if I can see what they're seeing.
And really quickly, the guy in front of him, Anthony Brown, has had a pretty nice start to training camp as well. Are they in a bit of a cornerback 2 battle?
Again, they were basically saying that. I wouldn't have said so, honest. And again, Kelvin hasn't been bad, but I didn't get that impression. But clearly that's the case, which makes it exciting. I want to get out there and watch him go.
That's one of the big things this offseason. They wanted to add depth at the defensive spot. Dan Quinn's already talked about it a little bit, and I think if Kelvin Joseph can challenge a veteran like Anthony Brown, this defense is going to be in for a good time, I think, heading into 2021. He's David Helman. I'm Kyle Youmans. That's going to do it for this edition of Inside Cowboys Training Camp. Be sure to stay up to date with everything on DallasCowboys.com.
Inside Cowboys Training Camp, presented by Ford, was brought to you by AT&T. More for your thing, that's our thing. Sleep Number. The Sleep Number 360 smart bed helps everyone from parents to pros improve their performance through quality sleep. Only at a Sleep Number store. And by Ford. Built for Texas, built for you.